Welcome to the inaugural episode of the Disney Librarian. On this show, we will chat about the history of everything, anything Disney. We will explore the studios, the theme parks, rides, characters, movies, TV shows, acquired franchises, original franchises, or frankly, anything we might find interesting. So let's start today at the beginning. Let's go all the way back to 1922. Kansas, Missouri. Walt Disney and his best friend, Ub Iwerks, start a little company called the Laugh-O-Gram. Now, I'm sure pretty much everyone's heard the phrase, "It all started with a mouse." Well, it didn't start with Mickey Mouse. It started with Alice. Now, Alice, you're thinking, oh, Alice in Wonderland? But that movie came out so much later. I'm talking about the Alice comedies. Now, the Alice comedies was a experimental animation style where Walt Disney had a 4-year-old girl dress up as Alice, very much based on the Alice in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll, and act with animated creatures. Now, this was cutting edge in 1922. And they created this amazing little short that audiences loved. Everyone was enthralled. It was amazing. However, that did not stop Laugh-O-Gram from going bankrupt. So go forward a year. We've got the Alice comedies. And they signed an agreement with M.J. Winkler, who became the distributor of the Alice comedies. And they contract with little Virginia Davis. And they start showing all these cute little situations. So Virginia Davis stars in over a dozen of these between 1923 and 1925. She's got titles like Alice's Day at Sea, Alice's Spooky Adventure, Alice's Wild West Show, Alice's Fishy Story, Alice and the Dog Catcher, Alice Hunting in Africa, Alice and the Three Bears. And then I had to say this title just because it is so outlandish. Alice Cans the Cannibals. Just kind of wonder what they were drinking when they came up with that name. Okay, so that said, she's in all these cute little shorts, and Virginia Davis very much loved doing this. She gave an interview at a fan convention in 2007, and she raved about working with Walt Disney and working on these films. She said he was gentle. He loved children. He never yelled. But, he would tell her a story. Think about, when a parent tells a child a story for bedtime, and, he's giving her all this information about the story, but she's in the story. And she uses her imagination for all the group of characters and creatures around her. She loved it. And she talked about how everything I did was in pantomime. But Walt would tell me the story and he'd say, "Look, back of you, quick, someone's coming. It's an animal, look scared." I did what he said. There was no sound. And that's important to note about silent pictures. I realize that not everyone in the audience may have seen a silent picture themselves. They may have not had the joy of seeing a silent picture at a movie theater the way it was intended, where you had an organist at the front playing music. So when the bad guy's twirling his mustache, he goes, "Dun, dun, dun." That was the organist at the actual movie theater playing that. There usually was not a soundtrack with it because in the 20s that was not a thing. it was a few more years before we had talking. And there are many stories about silent movies where the whole time during the filming, the director's talking. Okay, you see a really tall thing, you see a really tiny thing, he's coming at you, he's running away. You know, whatever it is, it's like, look up, look down, look left, look right. Whatever it was, a director could say that to you, and it wouldn't matter because there was no sound being recorded. So it definitely was a very different way of acting and directing, and certainly would not seem normal to us today. So, unfortunately, sometime in 1925, there was some sort of fallout between Virginia's family and Walt Disney and the Disney Studios. Not a lot is said about it, just that there was a fallout between her parents and him. But she did get to play Alice a couple more times. However, in the 40 plus shorts filmed between 1925 and 1927, actors such as Margie Gay and Lewis Hardwick actually played Alice the majority of the time. And a few other actors filled in onesie twosie times. But you've got this amazing plethora of shorts. Walt Disney made like 57 Alice films. And she's in situations, she's a lumberjack, she's a pirate, she's in a rodeo, she's in a car race, she's riding an elephant and on a parade, she joins the circus. There's so many things. Oh my, she's even a bootlegger in one episode. A 4-year-old Alice is a bootlegger. Kind of frightening. Definitely not something we'd see today. But you can see, actually, you can see several of these shorts. Some were included in the Disney Rarities of 1920s to 1960s DVD. There's also some in the Adventures of Oswald the Lucky Rabbit DVD anthology. And there actually is an Alice in Cartoonland anthology. Plus, to be honest, there are a few of these available on YouTube also. And so if you want to take a moment and watch what is available, it's worth it. This is part of the history of animation. Oh, and if you see her partner in crime look suspiciously like Felix the Cat, his name is Julius the Cat. In 1922, Walt Disney and Ub Iwerks created him, pretty much in response to the popularity of Felix the Cat, but he became one of her major cohorts in these. So the Alice comedies. Why are they important? Well, they mark the beginning of the Disney Studios and the Disney machine we now know today. They also mark a huge special effects shift in animation. Disney actually directed almost all of these. He did the animation in several of them. As you look at them through the years, you will see an increase in complexity, the number of characters, the style of animation gets more detailed. You will see how it grows over this 5-year period. And animation was growing with it at that time. So if you are interested in the history of animation, if you're interested in the history of the Disney Studios, or interested in anything about the 1920s, all of these reasons are great reasons to view these. And I actually do recommend it because I am fascinated by history and I love film. There's no question about it. I do have to add, not because anyone's making me, but because I truly feel this way. These shorts do contain stereotypes they do contain derogatory images of cultures and races. Now, that is not surprising. In the time and age of the 1920s, it was not just common, it was expected. You have to understand the history of a shortcut, the history of a stereotype, because that's what a stereotype is. It's a shortcut. And they had been used at least as far back as Greek plays. In ancient Greek, they would do shortcuts to depict a philosopher or a senator or a slave or a rich guy. There were symbols you did. You see it in Shakespeare. You see it in every artistic medium, both two-dimensional and three-dimensional, where shortcuts are used. Oh, because everyone will know, okay, it's 1646. We all know what that means. That's a joke about King James. Okay. So stereotypes have a very long history in artistic mediums. That said, these stereotypes, of course, do not give respect. They do not represent reality. So as filmmaking moves forward, and hopefully when you look at the history of filmmaking and you look at the history of animation and you see how we view people of different races and cultures and religions and how that changes over the last 100 years, just in filmmaking alone. And it's important for us to see and understand the images of the past. It's important for us to understand that this is the 1920s. It is important to understand that this is normal for the 1920s. Doesn't make it right, but it makes it understandable. And that just because it was okay in the 1920s does not mean that we would ever do the Cannibals in 2021. I would like to think that as we understand our past, as a people, as a nation, as a planet, as a artistic medium, that we can now come together, acknowledge the past, warts and all, and move forward together in respect, in inclusion, in understanding of others, and doing a better job. Well, on that, I'd like to thank you for joining us for today's episode. I hoped you enjoyed learning a little bit about Disney and his start in the world. I've put up a few links on information about the Alice comedies. I recommend searching them out if you don't have these DVD compilations or can't get your hands on them. You know, you and I both know that there are several of these on YouTube. So enjoy them. Enjoy the history. Enjoy them for the funny situations that they often were. And see where it all began with a 4-year-old girl named Alice.